Okay, it's summer and it's time. We've got the Mod Electronics Princeton style reverb amplifier kit, and I'm going to start the unboxing of this. And we've got the chassis that's loaded with components. I've got some paper I've got to pull out of here. I've got a Tolex covered reverb tank. What else we got? Got my electric cord. I've got my manual / diagram for all this stuff, which is going to come in really handy. Got my chassis label. I'm guessing this is a transformer or tube. Transformer. Yeah, that first box was definitely tubes. Yep, that's transformer. And something else heavy. We'll figure it out. Now, I've got to go through all these pieces of paper and make sure there's nothing hiding in there. But Mod Electronics does a really good job of putting this stuff all together to where you can find everything. So I've got 4 boxes inside the big box. My electric cord, my reverb tank with cover, my chassis with 1 bag of components, 1 bag of wire, a bag of caps, rectifier it looks like, resistors, and fuses, and filter caps. And then I've got my boards. And then I've got my back panel. Because this is going to be a board style wire-to-wire point build. And you can see that picture of what we're getting into on the back of this. So, I'm doing the unboxing. I'm going to read through this manual at least twice. Everybody's got a quiet time of the day where they're drinking coffee or they're relaxing and they like to read, and there's no, hopefully you do anyway, and there's no noise or distractions. So I'm going to read through this kit twice, because a lot of times when you have this many items attached to this many points, you want to make sure you go through there and get everything in there before you start dropping that solder in. And there are always little tips and tricks you miss that, you know, my old saying is there's never enough time to do it right. There's always enough time to do it over though. All right, so we've got this. What I don't see right now on my sock, I got 1 socket there, but that's a rectifier. I got some sockets in here. Let's see what's in the big box. We'll start out with one of the bigger boxes. Ta-da! And this big box can go on the side because this is our foot switch, and it's the 2-button Fender style foot switch. And this is, yes, a 15-watt transformer. And this guy here now, I have no high-speed electrical training. Yep, this is all the tubes and the socket covers and the protectors and all that stuff in that one. Which means this is the other transformer in this one. I believe there's 2. So if I can do this, and the only real skill I've got is soldering and be able to follow diagrams and sometimes schematics. And I said sometimes. Yep, and that's another big transformer there. Make sure nothing else in this paper. And we got something else in here. Yep, we got another one of them guys. Looks like another transformer. So, we've got all this stuff. Now, the reverb tank we can put on the side along with the foot switch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the manual now. I'm going to find out all the little nuances of this kit, the way it's laid out. I'm going to account for all of the parts I've got, and then I'm going to segregate those parts into piles, and I'm actually going to tab out this book. And the reason I'm going to do that is somewhere in this book, I promise you, is a diagram that they're going to refer to at least, a dozen times. And when they do that, I have to be able to flip back to that page from whatever page of instruction I'm on. So this book is 79 pages long. So we're going to make sure we have everything in there. And I'm betting this is going to be the diagram page that they're going to keep referring that you go back to. So we're going to try and get this on video, or at least get the stages of putting it together on video, so you can make the decision as an educated consumer, is this something I want to be able to tackle at home? Now, I do have a backstop. I have a good friend who is an IBEW retired electrician and tube amp aficionado, and he does a lot of repairs for me. And his name's Stosh, and he's up in Connecticut right now. But when he comes back down, if I have a problem with this amp, he can go through it with me and do the tests, and we can make sure the filter caps are drained down so I don't get a high voltage shock. So if that's some of the stuff that's deterring you, hey, I get it, I understand. So this is Tom at Talent Guitar Works. Only half my ideas are any good. Look for part 2 of this video soon. Hey everybody, this is Tom at Talent Guitar Works, and you're not going to see me much today except for my hand, because we've got the Mod Electronics AA 1164 amp unboxed. I've gone through all the parts lists and the manual, and they give you basically a 78-page manual with diagrams, and I think there are a couple schematics in here also. But you could basically do this whole amp off of diagrams. Now, what did I do, and why did I separate all this stuff? Well, I went down and wrote down the number of all my resistors on here and taped them out and how many I needed and what the values were. And I put that on my cardboard board, and I like that. And then I took all the extra resistors and put them back in the bag. They can go off to the side. From doing other type electrical kits, it cuts back on the confusion for me. I don't know about you. Now, I haven't built any amplifiers, so this is the first one. Now, I also did the filter caps and the rectifier and all the other capacitors the same way, marking them with their values, what they're called, and putting them on the board. So we got those 2 boards ready to go. Then I took all my parts in the bin, like my socket protectors for my tubes and my knobs and the electrical wire holder. I put that in there, and I'm going to put the electric cord on the side because we're not going to need that for a while. And then I've got all my potentiometers in one container, all my input jacks in another. I've got my switches and my RCAs in one, and then I've got my small tube sockets in one and my large tube sockets in another. I've got my rectifier, I've got my output transformer, the big one. Then I've got my reverb transformer, I believe, and the last transformer. Now, I may have misquoted which transformer is which on this, but hey, we'll get there. Now, I also have my boards, with their backers. I've got those separated. And then I've got my bags of nuts, machine screws. Oh, that goes in that one. Nuts, machine screws, and washers. And soldered lugs and all the other good stuff that's here. So now I'm going to go back through, I'm going to read the manual again, and I'm going to try and keep the bench as clean as possible. I've got all my wire in one bag. I put my foot switch and my reverb tank off to the side along with my tubes because they're not going to come into play until much later on. So stay tuned for part 2 with this. Now, like I said, this is the first amplifier kit I'm building. And, to give you an example, if you went out and bought a Fender Princeton reverb, you're going to spend a chunk of change. You could probably do this amplifier at home, including the speaker, for under $1,000. So we're hopeful, and we're going to try and do one that's a combo and one that's just a head later on. We'll see how the summer goes. So stay tuned for part 2. All right, it's Tom at Talon Guitar Works, and here is the Mod Electronics KA1164 12-watt Princeton reverb kit built out. And it took me going slow about 10 hours to do everything on this, do all the checks, read through the manual, go back through it, try and find pitfalls. Remember, I did the cardboard boards with all my resistors and caps and filter caps on them and all that stuff. So that worked really good. And if you look real close, you might be able to see that there are numbers on the holes inside the chassis. Now, the only thing I didn't number were the eyelets on the eyelet port. So overall ease of building, following the instructions, very easy. Let me justify that. I can solder, so that's not a problem. If you asked me the theory of why these different caps are in here and the resistors and in what array and what they do to the circuit, man, I couldn't tell you. But I can follow a wiring diagram and wire it up correctly and do the solder joints correctly. Now, the solder, I went with the expensive stuff, the Kester leaded solder, and it's like, I want to say 6337, and this stuff worked really well. If you're going to drop, almost $600 on an amplifier kit or $700 or $800, whatever it is, you might as well get the good solder. The Home Depot solder is good for some stuff. This one, much easier on me, stress-wise, to just use good stuff. Now, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? And what would I do again? And what would I do different? Okay, what I did wrong was I routed one of the wires through the wrong holes. And when I went back through my checks, I found that wire and was able to move it to the correct hole and get it to its right location. So that was good. What did I do right? I used the good solder, number one, took my time and spread it out over a couple of 2-hour periods to where I got everything done. Also, the cardboard boards with all the parts on them, I'm doing that again. Numbering the internal holes on the front, the bottom, and the back of the chassis, I'm doing that again. That made life a lot easier. I will get a white pen and label every one of the eyelets next time and the holes. That will speed up, and that would have eliminated the one mistake I made that I caught, hopefully, and it's the only one, and I went back and took care of it. But overall, it was harder to build some of the small pedals and enclosures than it was to build this out. Like I said, 8 to 10 hours to get everything to this point. Now I am going to order the cabinet from Mod Electronics and the speaker. I'm going to do a Jensen PR10, which was the standard for the Fender Princetons back in the day. And we're going to check that out. I haven't installed any of my tubes, but I've got my transformers and my reverb driver right there. And all my tube sockets are in. All that stuff is good to go. Now, would I do this amp kit again? Absolutely. Do I recommend it to you at home? If you can solder and you could follow instructions, you could build this kit. Just don't get ahead of yourself. Keep organized. Because it seems like that's it. When you look at that, that looks like chaos. But when you take it step by step, you're able to go through and you're able to get all the parts in the right locations, wired correctly, and soldered in. So things I'd recommend: a good quality soldering iron with an adjustable heat or wattage, the Kester solder, labeling all of the holes everywhere, because that just makes it quicker when the instructions read locate, where is it? Let's see. Mount these through the outside chassis with use the lock washers and nuts, and you're going to do it at holes 35, 40, 48, and 50. At holes 33 and 38, slide the number 6 solder lugs onto the screws and then secure it with a 4-40 nut. Like I said, that sounds like a lot. If everything's numbered, it goes really smoothly. And like I said, my hat's off to Mod Electronics. I will do a second one of these, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to order the cabinet for it. It comes with this one, and I'm going to order that Jensen PR10 for it. Now, my buddy told me to get a Celestian Gold, and I may do that down the road. We'll see. But right now, we're going to go with all the original, and we're going to see how that sounds and check it all out. So this is Tom at Talon Guitar Works. If you ever wanted to wire one of these suckers up, and you have patience and you have some organizational skills and soldering skills, I don't see a problem. So this is Tom at Talon Guitar Works saying only half my ideas are any good. I think this one is pretty good. Bye.